Oh my goodness. I just found someone just as dumb and disgusting as Expat Taffy. Unbelievable, right? When I made the videos about Expat Taffy, where it comes to idiots, I thought I had seen the summit of crazy. And I never even considered to make the step to exposing flat earth supporters or flirts. This changed because of this horrible video. It is made by a person, Gary Wybanga, and reading this name I know that his ancestors came from Friesland or Groningen in the Netherlands, so the correct way to pronounce it would be Gary Wybanga. I have seen him floating around in the side chats of several debunking channels making the standard flirt remarks. Before anyone says, you must hate flat earthers, I don't. When avoiding the shape of the earth as a subject, some can be really decent persons, like for example, Mallory. She is my friend, and has a great sense of humor. She really is funny, full of heart, and knows how to make hilarious YouTube videos.
Extra triggered, get the limey hemorrhoid pillow. It could also be used as a waifu pillow. Ooh woo.
Gary Wybanga, as I will call him because it is the correct pronunciation, is quite the opposite. And yeah, to be honest, me calling him Gary Wybanga is also to annoy him, right? Like I said, the Wybanga name tells me your ancestors must be from Friesland, perhaps Groningen in the Netherlands. What are you? The third, perhaps fourth generation in the United States? Did they move because Friesland wasn't Christian enough? Probably you are Dutch Reformed or even worse. Thinking your God justifies you, defaming the people of the Shills like you did last Sunday? What did you write there in the side chat to make them ban you?
We have someone in the chat.
It almost looks like she's going in reverse instead of in forward.
We have someone in the chat.
Amy, you want me to pause?
Yes, please.
And if I don't ever poop again, well, that's just going to be who I am.
And that's very apropos for this moment.
I thought.
Yes, Gary Wybanga, you don't even deserve the name Gary. You're not worthy of it. Yeah, going around calling other people perverts on other people's streams, that's just massively tacky. Come on, dude. You're worse, and it's funny because I've noticed a lot of what these people do. These flat earthers are very sexist and they'll say, well, women gossip and all that shit. You're worse. And going around calling other people perverts when we're doing nothing different than anybody else, and and you're just upset because we debunk your stupid crap. Well, no. And you're not welcome here anymore if you're going to keep doing that. So no. Goodbye, Wybanga. Have a nice trip.
Did you call them perverts because the Shills made some silly remarks about that lady making these weird incantations and movements with her arms? Or were you just waiting for the right moment to use this accusation? Perhaps you are one of these nasty fundamentalist Christian conservatives who think they are more holy than the Pope because of God's reasons? It is quite common in your insane side of the flat earth movement to use sexual insults to debunkers that poke holes in your dumb earth view, like Daniel Pratt and consorts calling people a word I just not can say. Just look at the picture. Gary Wybanga, your channel is a real treasure chest of stupid. Did you know that? Like your video of Friday 25th of February. You are right on one point only, but you are so wrong in your other assertions, it is just hilarious. Yes, Polaris will always be on that place in our lifetime, but the next 8,000 years, the pole will travel past a few stars of the Cepheus constellation, then the pole will take aim at Deneb, the tail of Cygnus, the swan, around the year 10,000. And 3,500 years after that we'll have the brightest pole star of all, Vega. Who am I kidding? You are one of these idiots that will only believe something if they see it with their own eyes. Well, good luck becoming 12,500 years of age.
Another quick video about Polaris, Prashant Hawkins, and B-Ball. They can't seem to understand that their model doesn't work in reality, theoretically only. So let's say that's my telescope.
This is rapidly becoming very silly. And come on, pretending that silly thing on the table is a telescope? You really should try one of these, a 10-inch, Mead-Light Bridge, Dobson telescope like I have. It has an equatorial mount, automatic tracking and everything, but that would not work on a stationary flat Earth, right?
It's lined up with Polaris. It's on the north-south axis. I can literally leave it there, and it will always be lined up with Polaris.
Yes, if you point it on Polaris it will always stay at Polaris. None of you put a camera on it and set it to take a picture every minute. Something peculiar happens. The stars seem to move. When you take a time exposure that keeps the shutter open for 1 hour, you see the trails of these moving stars. If the Earth is stationary, is the dome rotating? I bet you have an answer on that, right? Just imagine the humongous ball bearings that are needed to keep this son of a gun rotating. Now that is some engineering I like to see. Oops, I forgot. This is a flat Earth delusion. But, Gary Wiebinga, I bet you never thought this through, right?
Now the flat Earth model says that's because we're not orbiting the sun. So that stays right there, doesn't budge, always lined up. Works perfect on a flat Earth model. Here's the problem for the globies. If I slide this just on the north-south axis just a little bit more,
Jesus, don't you ever wash your hands?
it will no longer be aimed at Polaris. If I look to the side, it won't be aimed at it.
You are so funny, moving the camera. Look, if I move aside like this, you would not see me anymore. See, peekaboo, I am here. Same thing.
At all. It'll be completely off. I would have to readjust the angle. So now we're going to go back where we started here. Now, the telescope sets on a base, right? So if the base moves, just like I moved the telescope back, we'll pretend this is grounded on the Earth. The Earth is going to move 186 million miles to the other side of the sun.
I know where this is going, to the next level of stupid, which is also the name of the next chapter. Well, what do you know?
You suppose it should still be aimed at Polaris? Heck, no. Of course, they claim Polaris is so big and so far away that it will still be lined up with Polaris. It simply doesn't work.
And just how does this prove any shape of the world? It will all have the same outcome. If the Earth is shaped like a ball, which it is, like a cube, an artichoke, or even as your ugly head, if you move the camera, you will get a different view. That's all. Man, you are really, really dumb.
They don't live in reality. They have to make crap up. But when you think about it and think it through and use common sense and rationality, you realize
that Gary Wiebinga is an utter idiot. By the way, what you see from the windows of my spaceship is a true orbit around our beautiful blue planet, as can be seen through a camera from the International Space Station, live on YouTube, every day. I am not outside the dome over the flat Earth that Gary believes we are living under. This is my favorite view, and I can watch it for hours.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
Adam Savage of Mythbusters is joking, but I am not sure about Gary. What comes now is actually an earlier video about Polaris, and it shows Gary Wiebinga's total ignorance about reality and substitutes it with his own delusion. There are two possibilities. 1, he has no clue of relative distances, as his diagram shows, or 2, he is deliberately lying in this utterly dumb presentation.
here's a quick little video to try to illustrate to certain globies who don't seem to understand Polaris angles. Now, this is what they usually come up with. Most of them, they have all these little parallel lines, and they say, you know, they got the angle, and they claim it hits Polaris.
You are always talking about a flat Earth model. Since a working model clearly does not exist, I had to create one to your specifications. Here it is, and as you can see, it has everything you want in it. Cool, hey?
This little dot, now in their model, this little dot is gigantic, right?
I hope I made it big enough. The North Pole is sticking right through it.
So, it's 44 million miles in there.
Huh? Where do this 44 million miles come from? I don't see it on your pretty drawing. You naughty boy, you made this up, right? Oh, you mean the diameter of Polaris? You are very confusing. Do you do that on purpose? Yes, Polaris is quite a big boy.
So if you want to take what they say about that, you can say, oh, okay. They all point to Polaris because that's 44 million miles in diameter. And this is only, what, 12 something?
12 something? 12 million? Or do you mean the diameter of 12,000 kilometers? That, surprisingly, would be correct. But I thought you guys are still stuck in using miles? In that case, you are way off. The diameter of Earth is 7,915 miles.
In diameter, which means each one of those would intersect with Polaris. Now here's the problem. You gotta remember, 44 million mile diameter.
The relative measurements on your picture are way off. Using the dimensions of your drawing, Polaris would need a sheet of paper twice the size of your house and garden. But I understand, you look at the tiny twinkle in the top of your imaginary dome, right? And you talk about reality? Really?
It's not gonna move. It's gonna stay here. Because according to Globies, the sky isn't moving.
Hold it, right there. The sky isn't moving? Are you ignoring this one? You know you can literally see this happening, with your own eyes, outside in a chair looking up, right?
So here's the Earth. We're gonna go around the sun, 6 months later. We're over here. And here's our tilt. So now it's like, this is when the south is tilted towards the sun. Over here was when the north is tilted towards the sun. So that's their tilt, right? The tilt never, what we're gonna have is when it comes over here, that's 186 million miles from here to here. Not around here, but from here to here, the other side. So remember, 44 million mile diameter, that's not even gonna come close to over here.
Let me show you the only way this would work with your silly flat Earth. When your snow globe Earth travels 186 million miles around the sun, it takes everything with it, the dome, the stars, the moon, and, wait a minute, isn't the sun inside the dome? There are some differences between me and you. Beside that, I am a computer-generated anime girl, and you being a real human, at least I think. The real difference is that I see the craziness of your insane proposition. The reason that the Earth axle is still pointing on Polaris, wherever its position is around the sun, is because this star is 2.5 quadrillion miles away. Compared to your pretty drawing, if you put it on the ground, in those proportions, Polaris would be 20,000 miles or half the world away from the dot on your piece of paper. And you dare to talk about reality?
Right? So even if I put all their little, little lines to Polaris, aimed at a 44 million mile diameter Polaris, oops, it's not over here. It's over there. So that's an impossibility. The model for Polaris angles doesn't work on a globe orbiting the sun. Now we also have another problem over here, and we're going to do star trails. We have these guys and they put these perfect, they look like a Ferris wheel star trails, vertical, up and down. Now, first of all, that's not even possible.
Oh, my God. The stupid is really strong in this one. You can get this yourself, you stupid mutt. Here's how you do it. Put a decent DSLR camera on a sturdy tripod. Set your image composition. Set your lens focus. Set aperture to the lowest setting for your lens. Set ISO to 200. Set camera to bulb mode. Set image exposure, that is the shutter speed, to 30 minutes. Even a delusional dumbass as you can do this.
That's just, it looks that way on the pictures because it's a 2D image. And it can't represent three-dimensional space that you're looking at.
Of course it is two-dimensional. Everything you photograph and film is two-dimensional. That does not mean in any way the result isn't legit. There are some 3D cameras, that take two pictures side by side, which you can put in a special viewer, but when you aim them at the sky the 3D effect is gone. You will try everything to discredit factual evidence of a rotating Earth. I just told you how to do it, but you will deny anything that goes against your idiotic mindset. That is how willful ignorance works. Don't you agree? Of course you don't. Well, this is all for today. I start to understand why many debunkers need alcohol to get through this religious level of stupidism. Does that exist? If not, it should. It would perfectly fit Gary Wiebinga's delusional mental condition.
1 week later.
That, and a little redecorating my room aboard Trident. You know? To make it a little bit more home. Last week I had a video on Gary Wiebinga. Before this, I never expected Flat Earth to be such a treasure chest of stupid. Sure, I watched the, oh yeah, right, debates on the channels of Fight the Flat Earth and Team Skeptic. But there the flurfs seemed to come up with semi-educated language arguments. They did their best, pretending to know things about thermodynamics, the law of perspective, etc. Needless to say that they all were totally wrong, but hey, at least they tried. And there are the imposters, like Nathan Oakley, who knows pretty damn well he is a scammer, pretending to be a flat earther because this generates income. Oakley is not dumb, he is cunning and underhanded. He knows how to play his followers only for the money. And there are the persistent flurfs like Bob Noodle Doodle, who does not accept his own outcome of a 15 degrees per hour drift on a $20,000 instrument. Gary Wiebinga is way out of their league. His arguments are so silly, they are just hilarious. Then, I received this notification about a comment on my Flat Earth model video, but it did not show up in the comments section under the video. Probably eaten by gremlins in YouTube, right? I never deleted any comments, and I would love to have this there, to properly answer it. I quickly took a screenshot and with that I found his channel. Well, first of all, he has hidden his subscriber count, and the comments on his videos are all disabled. That is a nice start. A very few of his videos are longer than 3 minutes and the average of the rest is 20 seconds or less. What his videos have in common? No narration, and they make totally no sense other than they show a globe Earth and different dates of natural events. Then there are a few, well, total gibberish. Here are some videos which I guess show some movement over a flat Earth. And, hey, this is one about the International Space Station. Let's have a look. Yes. This explains it all. It makes total sense now, right? To close this segment about Iron FE, I really want to show you a few seconds of this video. Can you believe this goes on for 8 minutes? If this guy tries to prove a flat Earth, he is doing a very confusing job, don't you agree? Now let's us go back to Gary Wiebinga. He recently published a video called, Clouds Are Slanting Down, because of perspective, not because of curvature. Even the title is wrong, clouds are not slanting down. For bleep's sake, are you that dumb? But let's watch the video.
Today we had a nice cloudy day, nice fluffy ones, from horizon to horizon and in every direction you look. Now I'm going to point up. As you can see, the clouds directly above you appear high. The clouds far away appear low.
Gary, the ground in front of you deforms when you pan the camera. What kind of lens are you using? You are probably using your phone, right? If so, the focal length of a phone camera lens is the equivalent of 35mm. Everything shorter than 50mm is considered a wide-angle lens. This means that, intentionally if not, everything you see here is much closer in reality, and this video is already deceiving.
This is because of your field of view. Things above appear to slant down towards your eye level. Things below your eye level appear to slant up towards your eye level.
Please, not that. The horizon rises up to eye level crap again. It does not adjust itself to your eye level. That whole idea is insane. To you it appears that way, because you point your eyes at the horizon, and that is what really happens.
So anyhow, the Globies have a problem. Let me pause this. And their problem is, they like to disregard perspective in these kind of pictures. Discount it or throw it out completely. They'll just say that the clouds are going over the curvature. They're following the curve of the Earth.
And that is exactly what happens. Clouds don't slant down, they keep the same altitude. Your tiny brain seems not to be able to perceive this, and this is not the blame of the globies. It is entirely your own problem, Gary.
The big problem with that is, it would put us on a very small Earth.
It makes your flat Earth pizza small, but let me ask you something. If you have driven there, on a flat Earth, using binoculars, because the Earth is flat, you should still be able to see your town, right? Where is it? Perhaps it is over the edge of your pizza pie world? Your point of view is always limited to the distance to the horizon, which never comes closer, even when there is a whole world behind it.
If you just stand out here and look in all directions, it's like living under a cap or a dome, a small dome. That's what it looks like in appearance. Now there's another problem for the Globie, and that's if they got on an airplane and were flying above those clouds. If they were flying above those clouds, the clouds would appear to slant upward towards eye level because the clouds would now be below your eye level.
No, it won't. Because, same as the clouds, that airplane keeps the same altitude above the surface of the Earth and perpendicular to the center of gravity, which is at the center of the planet. If a third-grade school kid can understand this, you really have a problem, but we have already established that, right?
So you wouldn't see anything remotely like this if you were flying in an airplane above. It's just simple perspective. So we have a problem for the Globies. They don't like to say perspective.
Men, you really are dumb. Perspective is used in all kinds of fields, only not the way you use it to bamboozle other people that don't share your delusion.
But if they say it's because of curvature in these pictures, in this video, then they got a small ball. It's just that simple. The clouds are not going over the curvature of the Earth. They're just simply going towards the center of your field of view, because that's what perspective does. It's simple, everyday, ordinary, average, normal perspective.
Let's talk about the sun, okay? Apparently, it is 150 million kilometers away. They say it takes 1 million years for the heat to reach us.
Hello again. This treasure chest of stupid is like a TARDIS, bigger on the inside. Just look what I found on TikTok. This guy calls himself Mario1983. Is that even a real name? Perhaps it's Mario D from 1983? Or is it Mario because that rhymes on idiot? Hey, I am a poet, and I didn't even know it. This guy has a special theory about our sun. Apparently it cannot be real. According to him, it cannot possibly warm the Earth.
Let's talk about the sun, okay? Apparently, it is 150 million kilometers away. 100 million miles. And it burns around 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like close to 6,000 degrees Celsius. I used to work at a steel company, okay? To make metal, the furnaces burn around 2,000 degrees. And you can feel that heat from about, I don't know, 25 feet away. So you're telling me that something that only burns at 10,000 degrees can be felt at 150 million kilometers.
So, you worked in a foundry? Well, the cup with molten steel is tiny. I think I am not far off when I say the sun is an octillion times larger than your foundry cup. An octillion is a very large number, did you know that? It is the scale that does it, but like I have seen in your other TikTok videos, you believe in the weirdest things. Yet, you don't believe Google, where you got your distances from. Things of Google that you quite suddenly start to believe as it seems. I wish you well with the proclaiming of your dumb statements.
They say it takes 1 million years for the heat to reach us.
Hang on. If the sun is 150 million kilometers away, with 1 million years of travel time, you need a speed of 150 kilometers per year. Divided by 365 is 410 meters per day. Divide that by 24 and you get a speed of 17 meters per hour. Snails can do that.
Does that make sense to you?
It's a good thing that you noticed it yourself. You are making no sense at all.
Nuclear fusion, and they say it takes 1 million years for the heat to reach us. It wouldn't have dissipated a little bit over 1 million years?
I agree. With a speed of 17 meters per hour, it would have dissipated after a few kilometers. But still, we have a livable warm habitat on Earth, even if, as you claim, the heat we feel was generated 1 million years ago. I think you have a perfectly good explanation for that, right?
We'd be frozen. This place would be a ball of ice, if that was the case. It makes no sense. I just made a post about how the sun makes no sense. And this is one of the comments. So matter deflects and space is lacking matter. There's not much that would diffuse the heat before it reached us. Nothing would diffuse the heat from 150 million kilometers. Have you seen what happens when someone floats into space? They freeze instantaneously. Frozen.
How can you know that? In real life, something like this has never happened yet. Perhaps you have seen it in science fiction? In a movie? Truth is, it is not yet fully known what really happens in the first minute when someone is exposed to the vacuum of space, but instantly freezing. I don't think so. When the astronauts on the International Space Station have to go outside to work, they are well protected in their spacesuits. And guess what? These spacesuits are what you can call air-conditioned. They sometimes need to cool, and sometimes need to warm the astronauts. Space is an ice ball. You start reminding me of another guy with a beard, who talk the same kind of nonsense as you do right now. His name is Nathan. Are you sure you two aren't related?
Where's the heat? How did the heat get to us if space is an ice ball? I don't know either. If you're with me right now, we're talking about the sun and how none of the facts make any sense. Here's another comment. You've never seen anyone freeze in space outside of movies. Get real. Okay. But if you Google the information, it says space is minus 455 degrees Fahrenheit.
What is it every time, with this totally nonsensical Fahrenheit scale? The temperature of space is around 0 degrees Kelvin. This is near absolute zero. You are talking in kilometers, yet you also use feet and the Fahrenheit scale. It is you that is making no sense. Perhaps I will do another video about you someday. Until then, have a nice day in the treasure chest of stupid. Now back to Gary Webinga. This video is called Lesson 2 on Perspective for B-Ball and Other Globies. Wow. Perhaps he wants to be a teacher. Either way, he has a very high opinion of himself.
This is a clip from a B-Ball video in Hawaii. I know he doesn't think angular compression and Rayleigh criterion are anything.
Oh, that's quick. Your pet theory's right at the start of the video. Let's start with the first. The definition of compression is the action or state of being squished down or made smaller or more pressed together. When a pile of material is squished together and made smaller and more dense. This works for everything. Air compression is squishing the air into a container. Data compression is squishing the same data in a smaller file. Natural compression can only be accomplished by applying a deliberate external force. And the Rayleigh criterion is only an expensive word to baffle your opponents with. This is so complex, I seriously doubt that you really know what it is about. But of course you only use the parts that you can alter to fit your narrative. So I will simply ignore anything about this Rayleigh criterion as totally irrelevant.
He denies them to the hilt. That's all they can really do. But right here, look. Where are the buildings? But you'll see them in a minute when he zooms in. Well, I'll tell you where they are right now. They're compressed into the horizon. It's Rayleigh criterion. They're too small. They blend in. Bottom first.
The only thing you prove is objects appear larger the closer they are and appear to decrease in size proportionally the further away they are. The closer objects are, the more detailed they are. Things lose detail the further away they are. That is all what perspective is. You can think of formulas to calculate it, or abuse the Rayleigh criterion, but it does not change the principle of perspective. I repeat, objects appear larger the closer they are and appear to decrease in size proportionally the further away they are. The closer objects are, the more detailed they are. Things lose detail the further away they are.
Okay, one last time. These are small, but the ones out there are far away. Small, far away.
But they are within the angle to some degree, because when he zooms in here in a minute, you will see the buildings pop up from that center frame, which is what we'd expect on a flat Earth.
No. And again I say, the closer objects brought into focus, the more detailed they become. Things lose detail the further away when zoomed out. Gary, human eyes cannot zoom in or out. You are looking through a bleeping digital camera, and what you see proves all the things I have just told you.
Just watch at center frame what happens when he zooms in. You will see the buildings and all kinds of detail popping up. More and more, you'll see as he zooms in, you'll see more information at the bottom. Here he goes. Just watch how everything's just popping up. It's expanding up and out. More and more detail is being revealed. You're seeing stuff you couldn't see before he zoomed in at center frame. Much more detail. In fact, you look at the waves. You can see more detail on the waves. They happen to be a lot closer to the buildings, by the way. Beeball is actually pretty close to the shore. So all these things, like these trees that you see right there, all that stuff will become unresolvable here in a minute when he backs off the zoom. He's going to show some of the buildings and stuff. He's going to pan around for a little bit. But all this detail that you see here is still squished and compressed, even though it's zoomed in on. It's obviously everything's compressed. Much smaller than what you'd see it in real time if you were close up, right? So it is compressed, but it is zoomed in. It's magnified. So whatever is in the angle, he magnified. That's all he did. He increased the focal length, he decreased the field of view, and therefore all the pixel space is devoted to wherever the camera is pointed at the time.
Don't you ever listen to yourself? You talk like all the people, all these buildings are compressed in something small? Compression like this does not exist in nature. You are making this up. If you are thinking that people start believing your incoherent rabble, you are sorely mistaken.
So he's going to pan around a little bit. I'm just going to pause this here a second, and I'm going to go to where he backs off the zoom. Okay, he's kind of panning around back again. He's going to back off the zoom here shortly. And you're going to watch the information at the bottom becoming unresolvable much quicker than the top.
I know exactly where you are going. When zooming out, the buildings will go out of view from the bottom up, which is a blatant lie, and everyone can see this watching your video. This is the most pathetic way of trying to disprove that ships at the horizon disappear out of sight, bottom first, because they get behind the curve further away. I am doing things the flat earther way, to observe with your own eyes, right? But that apparently does not apply for you, Gary. I don't need expensive words to show you are totally and utterly wrong. Have you ever sat at the end of the pier of a harbor for a few hours, watching ships come and go? If you had, you would not say stupid things like this. Come to think of it, have you ever seen the ocean, period? I can tell you, stationary objects like the skyline will never get out of sight bottom first, because they bleeping stay in the same place. Only when the object is physically moving away from you, or when you physically move away from the object, it will get out of sight bottom first. A zoom lens is not the same. But what am I saying? Talking to a brick makes more sense than trying to talk sense into you. The brick will not disagree and stay quiet. This time we will correct some statements and answer questions about flat Earth and other self-research that you were afraid to ask about. Flat earthers always distort scientific theories and mathematical calculations to explain why the horizon does what it does. A very good example is using a Nikon P900 camera to zoom in on buildings across the horizon, then zooming out, claiming the building's the dissolving bottom up. Next thing is to wave with the Rayleigh criterion, or butcher this to the railway criterion, and call this proof. The deception of these falsified images is that you don't need any trigonometry, algometry, allometry, arthrometry, barometry, chirometry, chronometry, clinometry, conchometry, cosmometry and some other trees to justify your claim. What you see when you zoom in is just a city that has been struck by a huge mud flood. The base of the buildings in fact are a few meters in the ground. It is actually quite simple. Another one is why ships disappear bottom up when going over the horizon. What NASA carefully kept from the people is that all these ships are in fact super secret submarines. They fill their ballast tanks when they are far enough from the coast and continue their journey submerged, because that is much faster. Several miles from the coast of their destination, they blow their ballast and emerge again before entering the harbor. A field where flat earthers go wrong is rocket launches and satellites, which they foolishly call satelloons because they have no better explanation. When people ask them, how about GPS tracking and weather satellites? They quickly change the subject and evade answering totally. These rocket launches are very real. After all, when Earth has a very sturdy dome over it, and space organizations have found a good use for that. Have you never wondered why the top of these rockets are always wider than the rocket booster below? These satellites really go up and always travel to a chosen spot in the firmament, where a large suction cup deploys, and this firmly anchors the satellite to the inside of the crystalline dome. This way they are always perfectly in place. And when the device has outlived its usefulness, the suction cup is detached with compressed air and it all falls back to Earth to its destruction, hitting the ocean water at high speed. And how about Australia? We all know that this country does not exist. But how about all the people on the internet claiming they live in Australia? Well, all these people are highly paid NASA actors who live anywhere on Earth. Their houses have a big room with a camera, and this room is totally painted green. In there, the so-called Australians act their lives on the moments they are on the internet or the news, with the video process called chroma key, or perhaps better known as green screen. Their fake country is projected around them. Their whole country literally is CGI. Sometimes the recording has a few imperfections, and really dumb conspiracy theorists explain that as a glitch in the matrix. But they are just idiots. The moon is also a subject of ridicule. Of course we know the moon is a holographic projection that sometimes appears transparent. Now, how about the Apollo moon landings? Here the answer should be really obvious. That was all done by holograms, in hologram rockets. Have you never seen that sometimes Neil Armstrong seems to be transparent? Last but not least, Polaris, the star that marks the north, and when you point a camera on it, in time-lapse the other stars seem to revolve around the North Star. This is totally true. The case of the matter, Polaris actually is the point in the top center of the dome, from where the Earth disk is hanging by an invisible cable that lets it slowly rotates. Because the disk hangs on a cable instead of a sturdy axle, it slightly wobbles and that causes the ocean tides. Why? Why does NASA go to so much trouble in spending shiploads of money to create this elaborate hoax? Why all the gigantic effort to hide the fact that the Earth is a globe? Some people will never know. Of course, in the tradition of the weekly bugger, this is all made up by ourselves. Sometimes you need silliness to fight nonsense. But you can never know if someone will take it serious.